I'm taking my emotions and my thoughts and making it into something real in the world. I don't remember a time where art wasn't a part of my life. I used to get in trouble for drawing over everything. I used to have this really nice antique white lacy bedspread when I was like 5. And somehow I got a permanent marker in there and I drew a really affectionate picture of my dad on this antique bedspread. So we still have pictures of that, but it's been constant. My parents have such patient hearts to not have just gone crazy when I was doing all of that. It's just been a life thing. If I don't make art within a certain time period, I feel like I'm in a funk. Right now I have weekly comics that I do, because if I make any less than a number of comics a week, I just feel really irritable and angsty, I guess. I'm constantly just thinking of something that would make a good comic. I have a running list. Just to see the world more as raw material for art making, rather than just something to survive. If it makes me laugh, I'm like, is there a way to turn this into a comic? I like to joke about things that kind of suck, especially just like through my healing and whatnot. Maybe finding bits of humor in really crappy situations. Hey, keep going. This sucks, but at least there's humor in it. Art has shaped who I am because it's just a personality trait. It's a way to bring these abstract thoughts and feelings, betrayal and hurt. It's a way to make it into something real and concrete, to validate. It allows me to work through issues that I otherwise would just keep to myself or just not talk about in general. I have a hard time just talking to people about my feelings and whatnot, but with the art I can process through it as I'm going, because it's something that takes time. Without my art, I don't even think I would be Falyn. It's been able to get me through some not super great situations. In a weird way, almost like a buddy to like kind of come along, where it's like I'll always have my art. It's something that I'll always be able to like lean back on. I'll always be able to enjoy. I can't not make art. Like, let us do its thing. Let that be the point of the piece, is the color of it. I originally was working on a series on toxic masculinity, which explored just the effects that society's pressures has on men, even in the realm of representation of men. Plus-size male models are like just now kind of getting to be a thing. There's this very narrow box of what men are often allowed to be, and it makes them die faster. And so this series was basic statutes of beauty, famous works that explored beauty, and putting them against traditionally feminine backdrops. So my favorite one is when he was posing as a famous statue of Aphrodite against our kitchen. It was done in a beautiful way, so trying to combine like the feminine then with like a man and being like, is this really that bizarre? Like, and if someone has a really bad, like vehement like reaction to it, then it's like, is that telling of their views on what men should be or are allowed to be? So I had a whole series of cyanotype prints. It was going really well, but my ex-husband was the model. We were married for about 2 years. He met a girl and they clicked a lot. And just as the months kind of went on, he just started to change. He started to really just all of a sudden not even want to try. And then it came to a point where he was just done. We had been together for like 6.5 years at that point. Our marriage counselor told him like, all right, it's either Falyn or this woman, like you can't have both. And after a long pause, said like, I don't want to be married anymore. He used all of my scholarship money on taking this girl out on dates, so I didn't even have that. Yeah, I kind of had nothing. Now that I'm out of it, I realize that it is better. And that's why the theme of my show is on reconstruction, making something better out of it. I really like mixed media. I guess I call it alternate painting, pieces that use materials that are conceptually significant. So like my wedding dress one, where I'm using that material to create something different. What I'm doing is I'm taking the dress and deconstructing it thread by thread, not in a violent way, not trying to take shortcuts by just cutting it up into huge chunks. Just taking time and meditating and deconstructing it gently, because that's how healing works. It's not something that happens just like that. And if you're violent about it, it's not truly deconstructed. You still have those large chunks that are not dealt with. Once I have all the threads harvested, we're going to be making a series of works that use those threads and create something new. I actually was convinced my 10th and 11th grade year that I never wanted to be an art teacher. Like, nope, that's not for me, because I had two teachers that had a very narrow view of what art is. Like, art is watercolor landscape paintings that are realistically rendered. But then in 12th grade, I remember one time I overheard this one kid. He was like the stereotypical troubled kid who just didn't care about anything or whatever. But he really struggled with even coming to school and whatnot, and he just like had a hard time in all of his classes, and a lot of people were just thinking he was destined to drop out and whatnot. I overheard him one day, "Art's the only reason I come to school anymore." The art room is often like a haven for kids who aren't reached in other classes. I got to experience a little bit of it last semester at Duluth East High School when I was placed there. It's helping students who are not traditionally, like, are non-artists, or be like, oh, art's not for me, have some of that excitement or want to explore an art. My favorite class ever last semester was this group. It was an Art 1 class, it was required, and it was like 75% hockey jocks that were like, art's dumb, I don't want to be here. And they were asking like, oh, can we do splatter paint? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, go right ahead. And they asked me how messy they could get, and I just said, you know what, as long as you clean it up, you can do whatever you want. They're, again, used to having to be neat and tidy and orderly in all of their other classes, so just gave them free rein. It ended up being where they were sticking their hand, like entire hand, into a bucket of house paint and then just like kind of smearing it all over. It was, their hands were covered, like often up to their arms, with paint. And at one point, there was like 7 different boys trying to get in their hands in the same like tiny little paint bucket. It was a mess, but they got so excited, and then in the following days, they saw me and they were like, oh, we get to work on our water mosaics today? Those are the kids that need art and a place to be messy and a place to just be themselves. I think education is the most important thing in the entire world. It's how you change people. It's how you make the future better. I don't think as a population we should be concerned about our own generation. I think we should always have our eyes on the younger generations. And this is a practical way I can help that, by being someone's escape for kids who are not being reached. If I can be someone's reason, a student's reason to come to school, I will have succeeded as a human being.